And joining us now live from Denver, Elaine Parker. She is the spokesperson, executive director of communications for the Job Creators Network, and she was hosting a women's coalition, a panel discussion last night in Denver. Elaine, great to have you with us.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me.
Let me ask you about your women's coalition last night in Denver, and thanks for getting up early for us today. I know it's only 5 a.m. out there. Tell me about your network women's coalition, what it's about, and how you put it together.
Sure. The Job Creators Network has a national women's coalition, and what we do is we recruit successful female entrepreneurs to really help us get the message out about women and what a force they are in entrepreneurship. There's 30 million small business owners in America, but 11.6 million of them are women-owned. That's 40% women-owned businesses out there. And as we look at the number of businesses that have just grown, small businesses that have grown over the last 20 years, they've grown by about 40% overall. But women-owned businesses have grown 114%. So they're an incredible force in this country. And what we did was got together last night with 4 women, and we were able to talk about everything from early career to finding the passion to become an entrepreneur, to the challenges from workforce to getting capital to dealing with regulations. It's just a fascinating conversation, and like their male counterparts, high taxes and regulations hurt them the same. But they're able to talk about different ways that they're able to navigate these systems and even mentors in their life. It was a fascinating conversation.
What's your objective here with this coalition? Because I love the idea of it. I love the fact that women's businesses are up 114%. I mean, that's a doubling plus number. Where do you want to take this? What's your vision?
Our National Women's Coalition is to amplify the voice of small business owners, just like every one of our members. But we really want to take the Women's Coalition and make sure that their voice is being heard and that people understand that women are succeeding in this economy, and they're succeeding because of lower tax rates. They're succeeding because of the cuts in regulations. And I don't think we hear from enough female entrepreneurs about how much the economy has really helped them and their businesses. Obviously, they're starting businesses at a faster rate. And just even from the standpoint of female employees, the unemployment rate for women last month is actually lower than for men. So like all demographic groups, we're seeing, very low unemployment rates. And we just want to amplify that message for this demographic group.
Elaine Parker with us, Chief Spokesperson and Communications Director for the Job Creators Network. Elaine, this resurgence, almost revolution of women opening up businesses. Also, a part of that number, 65% of that 114% is women of color. So you've got women and you've got minority women opening up all these businesses all of a sudden. It is kind of an economic revolution we're having with this. When you get through the obvious things, the tax cut and everything else, what is really driving this, Elaine?
Well, I mean, the strong economy fueled by sound free market principles and policies that we've had in place over the last 2 years presents opportunities that aren't there when you have high unemployment or you have no job growth or stagnant wages. I mean, people don't have the opportunity to save money to take that plunge and take that risk to start their own business. And, as we're seeing wage growth and people are able to make these decisions, there's more jobs out there now than people, almost 2 million more jobs. That gives people a lot of leverage in making decisions on, do I want to take another job and work for someone else, or do I want to take that risk and start a business and start my own American dream? There's so many opportunities when the economy is this strong that we're seeing people of all color, women, men, take that plunge, and that's why we're seeing so many jobs be created every month.
Elaine, it's interesting. When I took my master's level classes, let's see, 1981 or something, I remember one of my first advanced economic classes in graduate school. I remember the professor, you walked in there and it was a economics, finance, or something. And he wrote back then. There were no whiteboards, right? There were no. It was a chalkboard, and he wrote in the chalkboard, and it was like some number. I'm trying to think of this in 1980. It was like 72% of all small businesses fail, and 85% fail in the first 3 years. And so for a small business to make it, it's high risk, low reward, high work, and you have to make it through a 3-year period or 4 years or something to be successful. I mean, I don't remember it exactly, but I remember that was like the first, you go in, you get your syllabus, and that's what the professor put on the board. And his point was, we don't have an economy that really supports small businesses. It's a huge risk. And so, young entrepreneurs getting out should really look to get a job in corporate America. I mean, that was a college professor's message, that almost all small businesses fail. What's different since 1980?
The opportunities and the ideas and the imagination and the entrepreneurship. I mean, it's just amazing. We actually talked about education last night as well, and how in the past so many small business owners didn't talk to their employees about how they started their business, the challenges of starting the business. And so when when the economy had downturns in the past, suddenly the employees were being laid off and they had no idea. And so we really had a frank discussion about how important it is to educate your employees about how policies impact the business and ultimately their jobs. But it's helpful to those employees who may want to also take that plunge and understand that, yeah, it's a risk reward. I mean, there's huge challenges. There's lack of sleep and wondering how you're going to meet payroll and how are you going to have enough inventory on the shelves and how are you going to attract customers? Are you pricing your product correctly? But the reward is you grow a business and you create a family of employees, and you are supporting not just your family, but you're supporting your family of employees. And so everybody has a stake in it. And it's pretty incredible when you really bring people into the tent and help them understand how entrepreneurship works and how successful it can be.
Tell me a little bit about what are the things that when I looked at your forum last night, I thought this was a great question. I just want you to elaborate on it, Elaine. You said that men are not asked about balance, family life, juggling. Like, they're never asked that. Yet women are always asked that question. And as I was reading that, I was thinking about instances where I've asked that question myself, and people have asked that to my wife. Nobody ever asks me about that. They ask my wife about that. Is that an ingrained bias in society? Explain that.
I'm a mom of two, so I don't see it as a bias. I'm not offended because somebody wonders how I am successful in my job and how I am a successful mother. I'm not offended by that. My daughters are extremely proud of their mom, and they talk about it all the time. And so the work-family balance, I'm not sure I know what that is. I mean, from day to day, I wonder, am I doing it right? Am I balancing it right? I don't know. But, at the end of the day, it is true. Men don't get asked that. And we joked about that a little bit last night. Sometimes I see that as an advantage for women, as, obviously people think that we can handle more. And in some cases, I think we can. So I'm not offended by that question at all.
One of the things you mentioned last night is there are over 7 million job openings right now in America. So you said that we're staring down the barrel of a workforce shortage. And this is real. Now, this is a good problem, Elaine, not a bad problem, right? So this is a good challenge for us, not a bad challenge. But if you get a labor shortage here of 5, 6, 7 million people where there's just more jobs than available people, obviously wages get bidded up, so that's a good thing. But how do you fill those openings for businesses to continue to grow?
That is a huge problem that, if anything of this economy, the biggest problem that we're going to have is the labor shortage. We are seeing wages grow at a faster pace than we've seen it in a decade, and that's great for middle class because the non-supervisory wages or blue-collar jobs are growing faster than white-collar jobs. So we know middle class is directly benefiting as a result. we see some of these large companies advertise what they're going to boost their starting wages for. Most recently, I read that Bank of America is going to boost their starting wage to $20 an hour. I mean, in some states, that's more than they pay teachers. So when you see a $20 an hour starting wage to work for Bank of America, it kind of makes the fight for 15 just irrelevant, because the wages are going past that. So, it's a natural occurrence that's happening as a result of the free enterprise. But we do have to address the workforce shortage, and we need to come up with ways to do that. I know the Trump administration is pursuing workforce development initiatives that's going to help match people up with the millions of unfilled available jobs, which will allow, both the businesses and the individuals to take full advantage of the robust economy. Another way that we've talked about with you on the air, John, is this licensing reciprocity for military spouses. We've taken up this fight to allow military spouses, when they move from state to state, to be able to have their occupational license accepted right away. So dental hygienist, a paralegal, I can think of multiple jobs, teachers even, so they don't have to get caught up in the bureaucracy. Well, that's a whole population of people that can now get to work immediately and provide, they can get a job immediately and obviously help stimulate the economy even more. So there's a lot of ways to attack this labor shortage that we're going to continue seeing.
I love the work you're doing. Let me ask you one more question, Elaine Parker. One of the things that you said last night is, what advice would you give to young women that are listening now who are considering fields where men outnumber women significantly, like manufacturing, tech, law, although that's changing a little bit, energy? What would your advice be now to a young woman if they want to go into a field that is just, for whatever reason, dominated by men?
Well, each of us had answers for that, but the overall answers that came out, I think, were really good. Was, to find your voice. You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to sit in the room and cuss. You just have to find your voice and be heard. And a lot of that starts with preparation. Know your work, know your materials, and come to meetings, come into your workplace, and be prepared, and show that you know your material and that your opinion counts. That was really about it, is being prepared.
I love the forum, and I love what you guys are doing. And these are just amazing numbers. And, one of the things that you do, which is really bring this to light. 114% of women businesses increased by 114%, 65% of that minority women. I mean, these are stunning statistics that you never hear in the fake legacy news media, right? Never, right? They're never mentioned, because at the end of the day, they don't care about the truth or what's happening. They just don't want to give this president and his economy any credit for anything. Elaine, people want more information on reciprocity. Where do they go?
On the reciprocity issue, they can go to freedomtowork.com. And there is a video on there about a woman named Michelle Hood, who's a dental hygienist, and she moved from Kentucky to Virginia, and she's been unable to utilize her dental hygienist license. It's the same work, but she's been unable to get a job in her field just because of the bureaucracy of her occupational license. And so we're seeing states like Kentucky and Iowa and even Arizona pass licensing reciprocity laws, but we're working with governors across the country, state by state, to get them to pass these laws so that these trailing military spouses can get to work right away. These spouses make incredible sacrifices for our country, and they have a 25% unemployment rate in that population. And when we have overall 3.2% unemployment rate, that's just heartbreaking. It is absolutely heartbreaking that this population has such a high unemployment rate.
John Fredericks Radio Network, I want to thank Elaine Parker for being with us, spokesperson and Vice President of Communications for the Job Creators Network. Look, find out more, go to thegreenrawdeal.com, thegreenrawdeal.com. You can also text JOIN JCN to 52888. 888-886-5286. Join JCN. Text it to 52886. Elaine, thanks for being with us live in Denver, Colorado.